Hello, everyone. It's Zoey, and today I will be doing a podcast. And my topic is the progressive era. Today I have,
Joshua Curry.
yes, we have Joshua Curry here, and he will be my interviewer for today. He'll be asking me questions about this specific era and different things that happened. And I just hope that I can explain everything in a way that you guys can understand because we need to know this information. It's really good information.
Okay, so today I want to kick off this podcast with one question.
Okay.
What was the progressive era and around when did it take place?
Okay, the progressive era was a time of reform starting in the 1890s and going up to the 1920s. It was when the Americans realized that industrial growth caused some serious problems.
Okay, and so what I heard you say serious problems, and I
Yeah.
kind of am a little interested in that.
Yeah.
So what were these serious problems that were caused?
Well, I feel like there were three major problems. In my opinion, those major problems were unsafe working conditions, corruption, and poverty.
Okay, and from my understanding, industrialization
Yes.
was a big
Yes.
thing back then.
Yes.
And so what problems did that cause?
Yeah, so that actually caused a lot of problems.
Or what was the biggest ones, rather?
The biggest problems, in my opinion, I feel like it was child labor laws,
Okay.
polluted cities, and corruption.
Okay. And so now, I've heard in times past that around the progressive era, there was a lot of times where we heard of like child labor
Yeah.
and gruesome work.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to know, how did factory work affect adults and children as well?
Okay. So children, well, let's start off with adults. Adults, they worked in really dangerous environments, but believe it or not, children actually had it worse.
Wow.
They were paid less. They were paid way less, and they worked very long hours in dangerous environments. And because they missed school and like education and stuff, it led them into poverty.
Wow. That's very sad.
Yeah.
And I understand that today these laws are somewhat still put in play, I guess, because now I know that there's a new rule where like minors under the age of 18, they can't work a certain amount of hours per week. And it's kind of funny because like as a person like me, I like to, like, if I'm getting paid to do something,
Yeah.
I like to work as much as I can to get as
Right.
much money
Me
as
as
I
well.
can. And I never really understood, like, I recently had a job over
The
Christmas.
summer? Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
And
yeah.
they had me working, and they said that there was only a certain amount of hours I could be on the schedule, and I was kind of confused, but they were like, it's because you're a minor. And now this has really brought a lot of insight to why that happened, and I'm pretty
Yeah.
thankful of it now.
And
you
I
know?
feel like that's actually a good thing that happened because now we, like, back then, I know us today wouldn't want to be working long hours
Yeah.
in dangerous facilities and things of that sort. So
Definitely.
I'm really glad that that's different now.
100%.
Yeah.
Moving on. Well, I know that Theodore Roosevelt was the president around then, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. And what role did he play? Like, who was Theodore Roosevelt back then?
Okay, so he was a president,
Okay.
and he expanded presidential power by
Got you.
actively helping and stepping in for the public.
Okay. And so, can you kind of give me a little more on how the effect of low wages affected families?
Okay, I feel like, in my opinion, I feel like low wages could affect families because of the child labor laws.
Okay.
And because I know that when the adults were working, they were in dangerous facilities and they were getting paid little. So I feel like the child labor laws were important in that aspect because the children were working long hours as well and, missed out on education,
Yeah.
which can have a big effect on families because if the parents and the children are doing that, it can really break up a home and not really have much income coming into the home.
Yeah, and I definitely think that low wages had a very long-lasting effect,
Yeah.
I guess, in a way, because money is needed.
It's essential, yes.
And if you're not having kids who can get a good education and then go on to get a good job to make good money, and they're out there working, and the parents aren't making good money, and it's just low wages all around.
Yeah.
It's setting people up for poverty. So I think these laws that were made to prevent that are definitely needed.
Yeah, especially today because prices are increasing, rent, even like groceries, food and stuff is really increasing, so I'm glad as well.
And another thing with that is how things are increasing.
Yeah.
But I don't know if people have come to realize that the prices of things constantly are increasing, but pay isn't either. So it's like we're kind of moving backwards in a sense.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
It's just, it's crazy,
Yeah.
I know that this phrase or something had quite a bit of meaning to Theodore Roosevelt, and it's called trust buster. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, so him being a trust buster meant that he broke up monopolies that basically just had too much control over industries.
Okay, and so you said too much control.
Yeah.
What do you really mean by too much control?
Too much control, well, in my opinion, because I can't really give you what they may have thought, but in my opinion, I feel like them having too much control would be like them abusing their power or abusing authority. And I feel like that's happened today, actually, in many big businesses and, industries and stuff like that. When people feel like they have too much power, they just be like, okay, well, I can do this because I got this certain amount of power.
Yeah.
But everything they do may not be, right in a sense.
Yeah.
So.
And there's actually a saying I've heard that kind of correlates with that it says, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very big thing and a very big step.
Yeah.
That I feel possibly could have even been built off of that, or things that happen surrounding that. So I think it's definitely important that we make sure that just because we can, we aren't doing things that aren't necessary.
Yeah, definitely.
So you said that it was about breaking up monopolies and lowering powers in businesses that were kind of just out of control with it. And did any of this help the workers that were working for these companies?
Yes, because like Roosevelt wanted, they limited corporate power and they allowed fair competition.
Okay, and with that, I kind of want to know your opinion. So, do you think that was like a good move on Roosevelt's behalf? Like, do you think that there should be a fair and equal system when working, or do you think that it should be more of a some people have more authority over others, some people are like whoever's of like a higher rank can kind of have more leeway, or do you think it should be more equal and balanced?
Okay, so in my opinion, it kind of goes both ways, because I feel like if you're advanced in a certain way, then you should have more say so over what happens because you're more advanced. But I also think there should be some type of equality, to where as though like the people that may be not so advanced aren't feeling a kind of way or being treated differently in a,
So I'm kind of getting what you're saying. So like kind of back to how you said previously about it was like a big matter of people abusing authority.
Yeah.
So you think that it should be kind of where a place where someone should be able to tell you what to do, but not necessarily abuse their authority.
Yeah.
And I definitely get that, and I agree, because I know that I have experienced people that have kind of like itched to get a sense of authority just so that way they can abuse it, not really having the people's well-being or the company's well-being at heart, more just a sense of they want to have some type of control.
Yeah.
So let's move on and let's talk about the role of women in the progressive era. Let's kind of focus on that and tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so overall, women were leaders in social reform movements. They pushed for better laws such as child labor laws. They pushed for better education for people who were in school and things of that sort. And I honestly feel like this was great because, on their behalf, I feel like it was great because even without political power, they still managed to, push for these laws and, protest and organize different things so that these laws could be put into place. And women actually shaped how we are today, if you really think about it.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, and I think that is a very big inspiration to a lot of people, that it can show just because you may not have, or everything may not be in your favor, it doesn't mean that you can't do anything, you can't stand up for yourself. And it also reminds me of different things, like how during different movements and just as in Black culture, how a lot of people took stands against things when all odds were stacked against them. They still found a way. Like I know Martin Luther King, he was a great impact on how racism and segregation has kind of fallen off, you know, and it really is inspiring to a lot of people how it can just it's very inspirational how you can accomplish something that
especially
seems impossible.
When, you know, Black people, they didn't really have the privileges you know other people did. So them being like the outcast, them being like the outcast, it's just like, well, people don't really expect them to do anything, but when they do, it's like, you know, they're really pushing for better, and it happens. So
and I definitely see that with the women back in the progressive era. Now I want to kind of know, I heard what you said about women's role in the progressive era, how they push for more fairness from my understanding. And I want to know about the women's suffrage movement. I know that was a big thing back in the progressive era, and I kind of want to know why that's important.
Okay, so to simply put it, the women's suffrage movement just gave women a voice in government, and that's great. I feel like women should have a say. Not even just women, but, you know, since they had such a impact on the progressive era, I feel like they should be able to, you know, have a say because of the things that they have previously done. You know, so that they can make, you know, different type of changes and, you know, just push for better because things weren't.
And I definitely agree that women should have a say in different political matters, and a lot of men back in that time tried to make it a point of men are smarter or more make better decisions than women, but studies have actually gone to show that a lot of women show higher IQ than a lot of men nowadays. You have a 12-year-old girl, I forget her name, but she actually was graduating college.
I think I saw that.
And it's kind of crazy how, like, you have a lot of developed and a lot of mentally strong women who are able to rise through all the challenges that they're being faced with, and it's like it's pretty good, and I definitely am a supporter of that in that aspect. Anyways, I want to know more about how women were able to influence reform even though they weren't allowed to vote yet, from my understanding.
Okay, so that's actually a good question, because you would think that without, you know, political power or really a voice at all, you wouldn't be able to do much. But they actually, you know, did simple things like organize protests. They were protesting, and, you know, they led social reform movements and things of that sort. So I feel like that really influenced the era and maybe even the people back then, because you know, some people, if it was me, I would have been kind of doubted, you know, I would have been doubting myself, like, okay, this is just about to be how we live. But, you know, women, you know, they gave that influence, and, you know, they actually pushed for it. So I feel like that really helped.
And I definitely think that is a good way to be very optimistic and see a bright side even when you're in so much darkness. And I think it's very, very good that they were able to persevere through all the things that were, like, they literally could not vote for who was going to lead them and have control over them, and they still found a way to make a big impact on the world and even our political standpoint. And it's very, very, very
Women
inspiring.
Women are great.
Definitely. Now, how did women show leadership without political power?
So back to what I said about the protesting and organizing, I feel like that alone can show leadership, because, you know, I don't think men were doing that, you know, no offense to men, but I don't think men were, you know, taking a step forward, because, you know, they were allowed to do those things, so it would have been better if they did. But the women, they didn't have a voice, but they still, you know, stepped up and they did it. So I feel like that, you know, organizing and protesting, I feel like that simply just puts that there.
How they had a little sense of leadership, because I definitely think that it definitely takes strong leadership to be able to be the one or the core group that's going to be like, listen, we're going to make a big protest and we're going to go fight for what we want. Because I feel like that just alone is showing great leadership amongst the women, because it's like, you can go and organize something to push for what you want, and it actually is ended up being successful.
Exactly.
Like, it's not failing, it's not a bad attempt, like it's actually working.
Yeah.
And I know that it took a lot of persistence. Like,
Yeah.
it may not have been just after one protest, and
I know it wasn't easy at all.
and I know it's definitely not easy at all.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big thing. So I definitely love that for the women. Now I want to know, around the progressive era, what major laws were put in place?
Okay, so there were many laws, but again, there were child labor laws. There was the Pure Food and Drug Act and the Meat Inspection Act as well. Those are the only three that I feel like are like the big ones.
The major ones.
Yeah.
Okay, so kind of talk to me. We can go back. We kind of talked about the child labor a little bit. So talk to me about the food laws.
The Pure and okay.
Yeah.
The Pure Food, I think it was called the Pure something, whatever I just said. But yeah, that law was basically just, making sure that food wasn't contaminated.
Gotcha.
Going to the consumers, people who may indulge in the food, just making sure that it wasn't contaminated or, nothing was wrong with it.
And that kind of reminds me of, I believe it's called the FDA now, how all like commercial restaurants and things like that, businesses that are open, they kind of have to make sure that they're maintained, to make sure that they're having all their upkeep good, so that way they're clean. It's not no bacterias running around or anything like that, any rodents or anything like that. It's definitely an important part of the laws, I would say.
I feel like it's important too, because nowadays most people eat out. They eat fast food. They go to restaurants and they don't want to go back home sick because they just went out to eat. People don't expect to do that. So I feel like it's really good for them to upkeep, their food and watch over it. And
even in grocery stores too, like making sure that those are clean, because the people that do, the very few people that do continue to eat in and cook, it's important that their products are fresh and not contaminated or any. And I know that ever since COVID, really, that it has probably been pushed to an even greater extent. So to know that this has been happening for this long and know that it's still happening, that it shows how important it is. So I definitely would advise for everyone to just make sure that they're making sure that their stuff is clean.
Because you would want to make sure your own food is clean. So I feel like they should do it to others.
And I want to act about the Pure Food and Drug Act. I know you talked about the laws and how those were instituted and how you had to make sure that stuff was not being contaminated and things that were going out. But so that's more of the food side on the Pure Food. But I kind of want to know about the drugs. I'm not sure if that was really, like, it was a big thing, but I'm not sure if that it was like more important than the food.
Food, because I feel like Pure Food is just pure food. Like, just make sure it's not contaminated, no nothing. But I feel like the drug part of it would be the contamination, if you know what I'm saying. Like, that would be
making sure. And I think that may also end up falling into like making sure like your records, like your shot records and things like that are up to date, because I know in job applications now they actually ask if all your stuff is up to date, your shots, the things that your vaccines and things like that. So I definitely think that is pretty important as well. Moving on. Were there any groups throughout the progressive era that were left out of any like political or social reforms?
Yes, actually, and it's so sad because they were immigrants and African Americans, and I feel like those are they were the bad popular type of people, you know what I'm saying? Because they were, the ones being treated wrong, everything. A lot of hate aimed at them for, no reason, really.
And it's kind of like the whole thing with like hate against immigrants or like African Americans. It's like people don't choose to be African American.
Yeah, we don't. Yeah.
And I definitely don't think that it is good to have some type of hatred or treat them any kind of way, because I know in the Bible it also tells us to love each and every one like how we would love ourselves, you know. And I think that we should aim to love how Jesus aimed.
Yeah.
I mean, how Jesus loved.
Yeah, Jesus loved.
And I think that is very important. And I don't really agree with that. And I'm hoping that God will take care of that.
Yeah.
You know, those people that,
because it's still happening today.
Yeah, and it still happens. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
the real thing. And and I know for a fact it was even worse back then with segregation and racism being at an all-time high, where people are literally getting spit on and things like that. They're being mistreated by the police, especially.
And I mean, it's gotten better, but it's not gone yet. Yeah. So
and that's definitely a big problem that I'm glad has kind of died down. It's nowhere near as bad as it was, but it still has more work to be done. Now I want you to tell me about which amendment. Okay, I want you to tell me which amendment had the biggest impact around the progressive era.
Okay, so in my opinion, the amendment that had the biggest impact would be the 19th Amendment, which allowed women to vote. And I say this because I know that women had a major part in the progressive era and, you know, the things that they pushed for. And I feel like, honestly, without the women and the things that they did, certain, you know, acts or certain protests, you know, organizations, you know, just different things like that. I feel like those things wouldn't have happened without the women and, you know, what they pushed for.
Yeah.
So.
And I definitely think that before I dive into the different amendments, like the 16th through the 19th, I just want to kind of focus in on this one because I feel like this is a very important one. And I kind of want to know, like, I understand that it gave them the right to vote, and I think that was a very big step for the women because they, like as I stated, they literally didn't have a say in who was about to lead their lives. Like, I know a lot of people didn't understand that the president, or that the president was going to be having like so much control over them. So for them to not have a say so in who's going to guide them and just allow men and other people to decide, I don't think that was fair at all.
Yeah, it wasn't fair at all. But I don't think that is well.
I want to know, what did the 16th through the 19th amendments address? So I want to take this kind of slow and take it one by one. So how about we start with the 16th amendment and just kind of break down what that consisted of and what it addressed?
Okay, so the 16th amendment basically just allowed income tax.
Okay. And so now I heard income tax. Can you kind of break that down for me? Tell me what income tax is.
So income tax is money that the government takes from your earnings, from what you make from like your job.
Like your paychecks.
Yeah, your paychecks.
Different things like that. And so it's money that's taken out of that. Now, what is that money used for? Like, why is it being taken out of paychecks?
It's been taken out of paychecks for things like, well, to benefit the public.
Gotcha.
But, you know, things like railroads, roads in general, buildings, you know, just different things that can help the public. You know,
So
we need buildings, roads, you know, stuff like that.
So basically what I'm hearing is we're paying for all the things that will end up helping us.
You know? Yeah, and I mean, nobody wants to get money taken out of their check, but I mean, I feel like it's going
back. It's coming back to us and it's benefiting us. So I can understand that. That's one of the very few things that I think the government has done pretty good on. Now, as far as the 17th Amendment, let me know a little bit more about that.
Okay, the 17th Amendment was based on the direct election of senators.
Okay, so you said the direct election of senators. What does that mean?
So basically just the election of senators, like, you know, they would elect senators, I guess, to, you know, rule over whatever they ruled over and things of that sort.
With direct, you mean like from the people, like people getting to vote for them?
Okay. Well, that's actually what the 17th Amendment did.
That's what it means by that. It was allowing people to vote. Okay. So I hear that was allowing people to vote for the senators, which would obviously mean that before then that wasn't the case.
Yeah,
so
before then it wasn't.
Let me know, how were senators usually elected before?
Yeah, so before the people were allowed to, well, I'm not sure if I would say allowed, but before they did, they were selected by legislatures, I believe. legislators, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were elected by legislators, and they really choose. It wasn't really a people option,
Like a people. And I definitely think that is kind of good that they allowed the people to have a say so on who was going to be leading. I guess they lead districts and things like that. And I think that that's definitely good that the people got to have a say so in that. And now I want to move on to the 18th Amendment.
Okay.
And what was that really about?
So the 18th Amendment it prohibited alcohol, like no alcohol.
So no alcohol in the U.S. So
yeah, no alcohol.
That consists of like drinking.
Yeah, drinking. Well, it really just prohibited like the making and the selling of it because many people felt like led to many crimes and just random outbursts and just the bad things. I mean, I feel like alcohol can do that to people. If you indulge in it way too much, it can get you to a certain point where those crimes and bad things are happening.
They have a negative influence, and I definitely know that it is also spiritual.
Yeah, definitely
and
spiritual.
It has there's literally certain stores that will refer to it as spirits. They'll say wines and spirits, and that's definitely thing that alcohol literally will mess up your spirit, man, and allow you to.
And then they're just broadcasting it, but nobody
and that's the thing, like
looks
people,
at it like
people
that.
Because once something gets popular, it's like a lot of people that are just willing to try it, not considering what effects it's having on them mentally or spiritually, even physically sometimes. And I feel like they don't realize how addicting certain stuff is. So it only takes one time to get hooked on anything.
Yeah.
So definitely. I think that is definitely, I'm in agreement with that law that it should probably have been banned if it was influencing people in a negative way. Now, kind of let me know, is this law still, or this amendment still being active?
In place?
Is this, yeah.
Actually, no, it's not, because the 21st Amendment came and that basically canceled or repealed the 18th Amendment.
Got you.
And some people may think that, this was bad because, no alcohol, you know what I'm saying? Because
we're now allowing it back in, we just banned it.
Exactly. And, it was causing all these crimes, different bad things, but they actually allowed it back because they felt like when they prohibited it, that their crime rates were growing, and all the bad stuff that was happening when it was prohibited, when it wasn't, it got worse.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like that's how it is with a lot of things. Like when, we can use food as an example. When you take away food, someone will go searching for it, and it'll get them to acting crazy, especially if that's something that you have been hooked on, and it's something that you need to operate throughout your day. I definitely think that would make sense, that it was causing more harm than good, banning it. But from my understanding, they put like a age cap or something on it. Were there any restrictions with it?
Yes, that's the thing. Now that alcohol is actually allowed, they have put regulations on it, so it won't get out of hand how it was. So now it's just, good things, like, you can't drink if you're under 21, and you can't do certain things, and I feel like that actually helps, because if you're not old enough to drink, I don't feel like you should do that. I don't feel like you should do it at all.
Yeah,
but
definitely. But I also know that there's levels of maturity.
Yeah.
And when your mind's not fully developed, they say your mind fully develops or is more developed to enough where you can make sound decisions around the age of 21. And I know that is definitely taking more of the blame off of other people. Like, oh, I was young and I was just doing stuff. I think now you are mature enough to know what you're doing. And I definitely think that that's better, that it allows people to kind of have a free will to do what they want to do, but it also is kind of protecting what was...
because they know right from wrong, most people. But I also know that common sense isn't common. Yeah. So, but, I just feel like most people should know what they should and shouldn't do, as far
definitely.
As
that. But moving on to the 19th Amendment, we kind of talked about this previously about women's voting, right? Yeah. So kind of just recap over that.
Okay, so it expanded democracy, actually, but it also, gave the women the right to vote. And I feel like this is very great because, as I stated before, the woman had such a big impact on our topic, the progressive era. And I feel like, them finally being able to vote and, have a say-so in, their futures and stuff like that, I feel like it's great because, they didn't have that at first, but because they pushed and, they protested, I feel like their hard work really paid off.
Yeah, me too. I definitely think that it was very beneficial for them to have that right to vote. Now, I kind of want to ask, does the progressive era still have a lasting effect on America to this day?
Yes, and we can actually build off the 19th Amendment for that one. Like I said before, women, they have pushed for certain things that if they didn't push for back then, we wouldn't have today, such as child labor laws, because they didn't push for that. We would probably, be working in these dangerous conditions, getting paid low wages, missing out on education, getting led into poverty, all that different stuff. So I feel like, the women, they really pushed for all the good, not all the good things, but most of the good things that we have today. And I feel like that does have a lasting effect, because if they didn't, we wouldn't have what we have now.
Okay, I love to hear that.
Yeah.
Now, finally, what lesson can we learn from the progressive era?
Okay, the biggest lesson, in my opinion, I feel like we can learn that when we speak up or when we fight for what we want, it helps. It puts things into motion, because like the woman did, they did all these things, protested and led social reform movements and things of that sort. They did all of this and it finally paid off. They may not be here to see it, but it finally paid off for the better, and they got their right to vote, things of that sort. So I really just encourage people to speak up about the things that they want, because that's exactly what the woman did, and it got them where they wanted to be.
Yeah, and this was very great, actually.
Yeah.
And I could say that my biggest takeaway from this whole thing is definitely that no matter what challenges you're facing, don't ever think that something's impossible. Like, fight for what you want and what you know is right. And I definitely think that it was a big deal that women get the right to vote, because now I know since then they have made a lot of major decisions, as you said, that have positively affected our state and country today. Like, there's not only their ability to vote, but now that you have female senators, you have female people a part of Congress.
Vice presidents.
Yeah, vice presidents, exactly. It's like new accomplishments that have been being made, and even going back to vice presidents, let alone it wasn't only just a woman, it was also an African American woman, which made it 10 times better. And it just shows that when all odds are stacked against you, don't think that you can't do something. So this honestly was very great. I enjoyed myself, and I enjoyed being your interviewer today. You did a great job, and
Thank you.
I really this really helped me and taught me something new.
Me
and
as
I
well.
hope that the people at home were able to learn something new as well.
Yes. Well, you heard him. Jesus. It's 26 minutes, sorry. But you heard him. I'm really glad that we did this. I'm so glad that we were allowed to, speak on this topic and give you all new information, because most of the stuff that I've researched on this topic wasn't something that I knew about before. So I told myself something, him something, and hopefully you all. So I thank you guys for watching this. This is the Fixing a Broken America, episode 1 of the Progressive Era. I will see you guys next time.
Bye.